over the Memorial Day weekend, Solo: A Star Wars Story was released in theaters worldwide in most countries, and it bombed pretty badly, at least compared to what other Star Wars movies have made recently. Now, for what it's worth, I saw Solo: A Star Wars Story, and I thought it was a decent, fun movie. And I think a lot of other people thought it was at least okay. There were a lot of people who didn't like it, but a lot of people who were like, this movie's alright, it's not bad. But even so, it did not make as much money as a lot of people think it needed to make, given the fact that it's a Star Wars movie and what previous Star Wars movies have made. I think every single Star Wars movie Kathleen Kennedy has made since she took over made at least $1 billion. This is the first one that hasn't, and it's probably, before it leaves theaters, going to make far below $1 billion. And so a lot of people are like, what the heck's going on? And I have 8 reasons why I think this movie has underperformed. And here we go. Number 1, the fan backlash. Now, as I think everybody knows, whether or not you like or hate the Star Wars universe right now, there's a huge contingent of fans who do not. They are unhappy, and they wanted to send a message to Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm that they do not like the direction this franchise is going. They don't like the direction she's taking it in, and they have voted with their wallets. You know, there's a boycott Solo campaign that's around, and there's a lot of people who are like, I'm just not going to see this movie. I'm not going to support a franchise that's going in a direction I don't want. And I also think a lot of those people hate Kathleen Kennedy and wanted to slap her in her face. And the best way to slap someone like her in her face is to vote with your wallet, to not pay money for something, and to show her and Disney that, you know, you can make it so that one of the movies she makes will be the first one not to reach $1 billion and to get far below $1 billion. We'll see what happens when we have the second and third week drop-offs, but I'm predicting that they're going to be pretty steep. Number 2, negative buzz. Now, long before Solo was actually released in theaters, there were all these news articles about director drama. You know, Kathleen Kennedy fired the original 2 directors, Phil Lord and Chris Miller, replaced them with Ron Howard. And these days, when people hear about, you know, like director drama and directors being fired during productions, they automatically start getting worried about how the movie's going to, you know, turn out. I think that was one of the things that harmed Justice League, another underperformer from last year. You know, what happened there? Zack Snyder was replaced in the middle of the production, or I don't know, later in it, I don't know, with Joss Whedon, and there were all these rumors of problems, and a lot of people, you know, were kind of, I have a bad feeling about Justice League, which I think is one of the things that hurt that movie's box office. And we see the same thing here with Solo. A lot of people were concerned when, you know, they heard stories of directors being fired and not getting along with Kathleen Kennedy and all this stuff. And so I just think there was a lot of worry and, I guess, nervous energy from fans. Like, I'm not so sure this movie's going to be good. I'm just not going to watch it. Number 3, this is a movie that a lot of people didn't feel needed to be made. I mean, a lot of people, Star Wars fans, felt, you know, we met Han Solo in the original Star Wars movies. You know, we have all these novelizations, all these comics, video games. Oh, I don't know if Han Solo has been much of a presence in the Star Wars video games, but, you know what I mean. People already think, you know, we know everything we need to know about Han Solo. We don't need to see an origin movie about him. He was just, you know, a smuggler who got mixed up in all this business with the Empire. He fell in love with Leia, became, you know, a good guy, that sort of thing. We don't need to figure out how he got there. We already know. I mean, when people found out that, you know, Disney bought Lucasfilm and was going to do a whole new era of Star Wars movies, Han Solo wasn't one of the characters they were interested in seeing in his own movie. Like, they want to see people, you know, like Obi-Wan or Luke or just other people. They didn't really think of him. They like Han Solo, but they were like, oh, I didn't know I wanted to see a movie about Han Solo all by himself as the star of it. Number 4, this is a Han Solo movie that didn't star Harrison Ford. I think that as iconic of a character as Han Solo is, a lot of people see him as someone being played with Harrison Ford. They just see that face. They have an image of who Han Solo is and what he's supposed to look like. And Harrison Ford is also a pretty big star. I mean, come on. I mean, his post-Star Wars career has been spectacularly good. And so having a Han Solo movie without him starring in it, I think hurt this movie, like didn't make as many people excited for it as they might have been otherwise. Now, I know logistically it was hard to have Harrison Ford star in a Han Solo movie because it's supposed to be in the past. Harrison Ford's getting older, and Harrison Ford doesn't even want to be playing Han Solo anymore. So, you know, Lucasfilm couldn't exactly bring him back for a Han Solo movie. But even so, a lot of people might think if you can't do a Han Solo movie with Harrison Ford starring in it, just don't make one at all. Number 5, it's a smaller scale movie. Most Star Wars movies, I think every Star Wars movie up to this point, has had, huge armies of people fighting each other, a cast of characters fleeing, a larger cast of characters, these epic larger than life, lightsaber battles and force powers and stuff. But Han Solo, this movie didn't have any of that. And so maybe there just weren't as many people excited to see it because it didn't seem like as larger than life like previous Star Wars movies have. I mean, those movies were the equivalent of movies about in our world, countries fighting each other, wars. But Solo's like, a bunch of people fighting like in a neighborhood. I guess, it's not an epic grand scale movie. So it's not necessarily going to get an epic grand scale movies kind of excitement or box office. Number 6, too much competition. I mean, Deadpool 2 just opened last week. Deadpool 2 is, the same kind of movie to appeal to the same kind of audience, sci-fi action, just like Solo's a sci-fi action movie. And before that, we had Infinity War, which is a huge Marvel movie, also sci-fi action. Both those movies are still in theaters, and Deadpool 2 was the one that just came out, and that's still in theaters too. These movies, all three of these movies, Solo, Deadpool 2, and Avengers Infinity War, open so closely together, I think they might sort of be cannibalizing each other's box office because people don't have an unlimited supply of money. They can't see every single movie all the time. There are people who are only going to see one or see two, but not all three. It's just, there's competition. Number 7, maybe. This one's a maybe, I don't know. Possibly Star Wars fatigue. That's what people are saying, although I don't know if that's the case. But the argument is, there's too many Star Wars movies and it's, diluting people's excitement. And I can see why you might say that because previously until now, Star Wars movies came out in phases, every few decades or whatever. We had the first 3 and then several years later we had the second 3, the George Lucas prequels. And now, several years later after that, we have not that many years, but years later we have The Force Awakens, the first movie in this new era of Star Wars movies. And so Star Wars movies had been like an event. It's like, oh, Star Wars is back, and it's, we're going to have for a limited amount of time, and rush out and go see it, that sort of thing. It was an event to see a Star Wars movie. And now, because there's a Star Wars movie out every year, the argument is there's less excitement because, it's every year we're seeing the same thing. But I don't really know personally if that's the case because, Marvel movies are able to have 3 or 4 a year and still make a lot of money. So I think Star Wars could do the same thing. Number 8, the Memorial Day weekend. Historically, Memorial Day has not been usually a very great date for movies because there are fewer people who want to go to the movies during Memorial Day weekend. Historically, I mean, there have been other movies that haven't exactly performed that well over this weekend. So I know Solo did still, it was the number 1 movie of the weekend. It still made a certain amount of money, but maybe not as much as it might have made if it had opened just any time else during the year. And, there's an argument that Star Wars movies, traditionally, at least right now, they've always opened, I think near Christmas at the end of the year. And this one came out during the summer. And maybe people aren't used to seeing Star Wars movies in the summer. I don't know, possibly. However, I don't think that the Memorial Day weekend, although it's probably a factor, I think that combined with the other factors I've listed, that's not the only one and maybe not even the biggest one. So there we have it, my 8 reasons why I think Solo was hurt pretty badly this weekend at the box office. We'll see. I mean, the chapter isn't over for Solo. We'll see what happens next weekend, what the drop-off is. And I'll be making a video about that. But thank you for watching. If you like this video, please like the video on YouTube and subscribe to the channel because I appreciate your viewership. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye.